Alongside Robb Lewis and Jesse Sampton, I'm Austin Price for the Blue Water Climate Control Volquest.com podcast, mailbag edition on this Friday. Guys, we'll get right to it. Tennessee, a slow week as far as the recruiting trail. Obviously, the news of Johnny Majors passing earlier this week. Coach Majors, 85 years old, and just a true Tennessee treasure. We'll start it off with the first question. This one from Jonathan David. Robb, share a favorite Majors story.
I mean, I don't have like a, little just personal story, aside. But I mean, much like you, AP. I mean, I grew up in East Tennessee. Both my parents went to Tennessee, so I mean, I was indoctrinated early on. And when I was a kid, growing up, in the mid to late '70s, is when I first became aware of Tennessee football. Pretty much coincided with Johnny, coming back to Knoxville. I mean, he was the face of the program. I mean, way more so than any player. I mean, Tennessee wasn't great in the late '70s, early '80s, and Johnny kind of was Tennessee football to me. I mean, I can remember he was a man of the people. I can remember going to basketball games in Stokely and seeing him, in line at the concession stand, just talking to people, chatting people up, and more than anything, I just remember the games. Tennessee has had a lot of success, in the Philip Fulmer era, but some of the games I remember more than anything, growing up, were Johnny games. The Sugar Bowl against Miami, the finally beating Alabama after a decade of frustration, the miracle in South Bend. I mean, who could ever forget that? Just. I guess, my short answer, I just remember it took him a while. There were some fits and starts, but, Johnny got it back, got Tennessee football back to SEC championship level.
From a football standpoint, couldn't agree more. From a personal standpoint, I think Coach Majors is someone that just related to people. He loved people. People loved him. He made this 8-year-old kid back in 1991 when Larry Laceville had me down for my 8th birthday for a practice. Think that I was just as important as anybody else. It's not a Coach Major story, but his wife. I was at a Yield Steakhouse. Oh God, 4 or 5 years ago, and this woman walked by and she reached down and grabbed a French fry off my plate and ate it and cackled and kept going, and I was like, "What just happened?" I had no idea what just happened. And I looked up, and it was Coach Major's wife, and she walked over there and sat down with him at the table. I don't know why she ate a French fry off my plate. I never asked. But when I told the story to him later, he goes, "That's her," and just and then he had a big time with it. And I just think they just loved Tennessee. They loved Pittsburgh. They loved every step along the way. I think that sure, he wasn't happy with how things ended here with his ouster. But I think that, while he didn't necessarily forgive certain people, I think he forgave, or no one's ever really even mad at the fans, that type of thing. He just, when he came back here after he retired from Pitt, he loved being back around Tennessee people. I mean, Tennessee through and through, and, definitely a big loss. Seems like all these things happened in the summertime. Haywood Harris died 10 years ago this past week.
Has it been 10 years?
10 years. Obviously man. Pat died in the summertime. It seems like it's always a summertime deal when that
Pat
stuff
died?
happens.
How about Pat died and Coach Majors going within a week of each other?
Is his cabin up for auction? Jesse?
Come on.
I don't know. I was just glad that Miss Majors didn't take some of your well-done steak.
There's a hamburger steak out there at a Yield Steak.
But it was well done, though.
No, you're right. I mean, Coach Dye, Coach Majors, and then there's one more. Who was the other one that passed away this past week? That was a college sports icon. There was a third one.
I don't know, but Dye and Majors are certainly two legends, especially down here in the South. I mean,
Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and two guys that loved their school, two guys that meant so much to both institutions, both Auburn
and had
Tennessee.
some epic battles. But I mean, that was Tennessee and Auburn played every year. that was, kind of like the Florida game is now, except Tennessee won it more often.
I wish there was a way that you could do. I think if you could ever get, of course, that would just make Tennessee's schedule even harder. They already have Alabama every year, but I would love to see that kind of return to it in some form or fashion where they played Auburn more than once every, 5-6 years. The next question comes from Cajun and Jesse. Over under 2.5 commits in the month of June.
I'd probably lean under. I think they're in a couple coin flips, but I'm also going to go with the presumption that Page and Dawkins are not going to make a decision this month. But right, if Wolf, that's a coin flip. I think you're obviously less than a coin flip for a guy like Smile Munden. So they could have a guy or maybe even 2 guys pop, but I'm not sure they get 3 guys this month. What do you think?
Oh, I'm definitely going under for the month of June, under 2.5. The second part of his question was limited to no fans, or will limited or no fans help or hurt this team, both home and away? I think it helps away. I think it helps any away team, with little limited to no fans.
Yeah, for sure. That seems like the simplest answer. I will say, obviously, Tennessee prides itself, and certainly this school and its fan base prides itself on just kind of how crazed and behind their team they are. So the fact that if there aren't fans, hypothetically, I certainly Tennessee would have one of the bigger home field advantages completely disappear.
Next question comes from CD Vol. Do you think all 3 running back commitments stick, Jesse?
Do I think all 3 running back commitments stick? Wright, I think, is going to, continue to gain interest from other schools as kind of his exposure gets out there and people get a bigger look at him. But the fact that Tennessee was in on him early, I think, is important. I'll say right now, I'll say yes. Cody Brown, that Tennessee obviously beat out Auburn there. But again, that was a battle they won. I'm not sure how much is really going to change. So right now I'll say yes.
I say yes as well, but you're right. I think that all 3 are possibilities because I think Wright's going to see more traction. South Carolina's not going to give up on Tyon Evans, and he's bound to get more interest from others. And then you're right, Auburn's not going to give up on a guy like Cody Brown, and Cody Brown's going to continue to garner more and more interest, especially playing in 7A down in the state of Georgia. Vol I Am's question: Wolf commits somewhere before or after June 15th?
I think it's before. I think he's leaning to do it around
June 13th,
13th or something like that. Yeah.
Yes, it
if
is.
He sticks with that timeline.
Yeah, I think he does. I think it's before June 15th. Rob, any cool ideas UT and Pitt might look at for an upcoming home and home to honor Johnny? Heard it mentioned both teams wearing throwback unis and the winner getting a trophy with his name on it would be cool. I don't think it's way too early to talk about that, but I do think with that home and home coming down the pike in the next few years, it does make some sense to do something to honor Coach Majors.
Yeah, I can see some jumbo, a really nice Jumbotron tribute, which, Barry Rice and Link Hudson, I'm sure would knock out of the park, with video and interviews. But I don't know about a trophy. I wouldn't think that it's going to be something that you see happen regularly, but it could be, some cool symbiosis.
Yeah, I agree that the trophy for a home and home, you're not going to do a trophy, but I do think you maybe could do a jersey type thing. Johnny was big on the orange breeches, so I could definitely see Tennessee rocking that, especially on the away trip to Pittsburgh, or Pittsburgh returning the favor when they come down here. But it is quite ironic that Coach Majors, his 2 teams will do battle coming up here in a home and home. In the next couple of years. So, Tennessee's got to get to work on their future scheduling. That's something I think that something's got to get done in the athletic department just based on the fact that, they need to be able to book some games further out than what they have at this point. Jesse, GoVols 2019 says, who is still on the O-line board that is realistic Also, with the amount of interior linemen taken in 2020, is the emphasis placed more on tackle bodies for the linemen we are looking at this year?
I mean, yes. I mean, that's what Kobe Smith is. A 6'6", 295 or something like that, with the ability, to certainly add another 20 pounds. So he's a true tackle body. I'm not sure, frankly, if Dedrick Pennington is a tackle, but he is being recruited certainly as an offensive lineman. He does kind of have a little bit of the Jerome Carvin hybrid body to me, but he's a guy that Tennessee's recruited hard, and I know he eliminated them, but I do think it's a little bit too early to just completely cross him off there. In-state kid, Memphis, Tennessee's going to keep swinging. So the biggest names, right, is Diego Pounds, William Griffin, formerly William Parker, formerly William Griffin. Those are probably the two.
They're going to keep swinging on Jamarion Gooch at King's Academy.
Yeah, and again, another in-state guy. And then, they've at least, ascended in, from barely making Amarius Mims' top 10 or 12 or whatever it was and getting the last spot. They're at least in the conversation there. Now, how serious is that? Most seem to believe it's already really down to Georgia and Alabama. So those are at least some names to keep an eye on. But I agree with the poster's question. I mean, like, they loaded up on all these guards or interior guys, guards and center last year. They need some more tackles, considering that Wanye, Darnell, Calvert, these guys are all going to be, either at their NFL eligibility or exhausting their eligibility next season.
I mean, is that the board? I mean, because you just rattled off four guys.
That's pretty much it.
One who's committed elsewhere, one who just didn't put Tennessee in his top five, and one who you think is going to Alabama and Georgia.
Well, there's just not a ton of tackles that Tennessee has their,
And is Pounds a tackle?
Pounds is a tackle.
He is a tackle. Okay.
Yeah.
But so you're of uncommitted guys, you're looking at Pounds and Griffin.
Yes. Yeah, and Griffin, I think, is a guard.
I agree with that. I think Griffin's a guard, too.
T-Vol 2004, will the staff pursue Markel Benton? No. Which role would Jeremy Banks play? That would be inside backer. Last year, Kenneth George appeared to lock down the secondary. Does he have NFL draft potential next year, Jesse?
Yeah. I mean, if he plays, I mean, he's still raw. Last year was really his first. I'm not sure what locked down the secondary mean. I mean, he didn't he wasn't starting every game, but he was a guy who emerged, mid-season. He took advantage of kind of some subpar times from both Bryce and Alante, and I think he's squarely in the rotation this fall. He has an NFL body. He can run. So the more experience he has, he does, I think, have pro potential. He needs to kind of continue to improve, but he's certainly on that path, and it doesn't hurt him, that, he's being coached by two guys in DA and Jeremy that have sent a whole bunch of, corners and DBs to the NFL.
Do you see any guys switching positions this fall?
I'm sure there will be. I think it's too early to tell because we didn't see spring practice, but I mean, with the way this staff has moved, guys around and flip-flopping them, there's has to be, right? I mean, are really all three of those guys going to stick at tailback? Whether Tim Jordan's back or not, someone is certainly going to, I think, change because Tennessee's just short at some spots while they're deeper at others.
His final question, as he asks in the entire mailbag, predict where the defense will be ranked in the end. That's too vague. No one knows. I mean, too many questions. I mean, who replaces Darrell Taylor? Who replaces Nigel Warrior? I mean, all that stuff will go into showing you what this defense is made of. Robb, Deshaun 13 says, is the Oklahoma game setting up good for Tennessee?
I mean, good is a strong statement, but I mean, as somebody mentioned earlier, if there's no fans in the stands, I mean, I think that helps you when you go on a big road trip like this. I do think we've talked about this before. Tennessee's bringing back a lot of experience. Oklahoma's breaking in a new quarterback. I don't know that. I mean, Oklahoma's still a really talented team, and Tennessee hasn't won a game of this magnitude in forever. But yeah, I mean, on the face of it, I mean, I think it sets up well. I mean, with all the the COVID stuff, no spring practice for Oklahoma to try and acclimate the new guy under center. Tennessee brings back a fifth-year senior who you would hope, is going to be a little better in his second year with an offensive coordinator for the first time in his career and a lot of experience elsewhere. So, I think Tennessee has some advantages, but I don't know that set up good is exactly how I would describe it.
Yeah, and I think some folks are also. It's not that it's not important, but I think some Tennessee fans are making too much of a big deal about the fact that Tennessee is now getting players on campus this weekend or right now, and they'll start workouts on Monday, and basically they'll have 2 weeks of workouts before Oklahoma gets on campus July 1. Which, yes, but they're not really doing football. I mean, they only get us 8 hours.
If they were doing 2 weeks of practice, it would be a big deal. But 2 weeks of workouts,
100%. If it was 2 weeks of full practice, it would be a monumental difference. But we're talking about 16 hours total. That includes weightlifting, no football. So I don't think that is like this huge advantage compared to some of the other stuff Rob mentioned, just in terms of Tennessee's continuity versus what Oklahoma's having to break in.
Yeah, and you're still talking about a team that made the college football playoff last year, and outside of quarterback is bringing back, quite a few significant pieces.
All their offensive linemen, yeah.
This is where I don't envy Hubs doing the call out of the person's name on Volquest each week. K-Bus McMe 5 or something. It says, if a player takes a red shirt this year, does it count against the 85 for this season? I honestly think Latrell Bumpus would benefit from it and also return next year to play more significantly on the defensive line with so much more experience. Yes, it does count. And I do think
that has a chance to maybe be the best pass rusher.
Well, I think if Cade Mays is eligible this fall, I think you're going to see somebody be offered an opportunity to redshirt, much like Brandon Johnson was a year ago. So I do think that there's opportunities like that with the depth along both lines of scrimmage. Let's see. Jesse Authren asks, who currently committed in this class does not sign in this class of the high-profile targets, such as Dylan Brooks, Terence Lewis, Cody Brown, those top players?
I think they're going to have the hardest time holding on to Terence Lewis. They're in a solid standing right now, but that one is, as we've alluded to before, is I think it can potentially get dicey at times behind the scenes. And so, he's someone that frankly they need to get, whenever these visits happen, he's one of the first guys that you're trying to get, on campus because he has not been up here in a while. He was not a guy that visited this, even before. Dylan Brooks had been on campus a bunch of times, 3 times this spring alone or this winter alone. So I think of those answers, Terence Lewis is probably my first one.
Simpson Vol asks, how does Ty Simpson rank among the all-time high school quarterback prospects in the state of Tennessee? I say in the Rivals era, he is the best quarterback that's ever come out of this
It's not even close. And we've talked about it before, AT, but
anything before that was kind of very much a wash because back the offenses were different back in the 70s and 80s.
Todd Helton was a big-time recruit, back in the day, but he was also a baseball guy. He had options. Big-time SEC options. But I don't mean this to hype Ty Simpson up that much because I don't know that where he's going to fall in the Rivals top 250, top 100 or whatever. But it's just weird that the state of Tennessee has not produced a big time quarterback prospect. And they've produced some great players. NFL players, guys that have gone on to have great success in the Rivals era, and they have not produced. This state has not produced a single big time quarterback since Hubbard and I have been doing this, which is about almost 20 years now. The highest rated.
I don't even know, AP, who would number 2 in even the last 10 years be?
B.J. Coleman was a 4-star when he came out, but he was a low 4-star, and it wasn't like Tennessee, beat out a ton of people. Engel Martin was a pretty big time.
Engel Martin went to Florida, but and then the kid at Sylvan South that went to Kurt Phillips, who went to Wisconsin.
It's really weird. Tennessee has produced some big time NFL players. Derek Barnett, Patrick Willis. You can go on and on, but they have not produced a quarterback.
Miller Boy 21 asks, is Tim Jordan a goner, and does that open a spot for a grad transfer? No, Tennessee's trying to lose bodies, not gain new ones. Is Tim Jordan gone? I don't think a decision's been made. I do know that he is not back on campus as of this taping on this Friday morning. So, I think that he definitely opened himself up, Jesse, to Jeremy Pruitt having to make a decision about, the future of Tim Jordan.
Yeah, and when we've done these rewatches, we've highlighted the fact that Jordan, for a team that has a small margin for error, he's not a dynamic tailback. He's not a game changer, but he did contribute significantly at times in a couple key wins a year ago. And so the loss would sting, but it's something that when Jeremy's looking at how does he have to get under, he's got 90-some-odd people on scholarship. You got to get down by the time the semester starts in August. It's kind of a natural, easy casualty to say, hey, I mean, those gun charges were pretty serious. It's less about just the weed than kind of some of the other stuff that was in that report. So this may be an easy decision for Jeremy to cut bait.
Elberg Vol asks, we know about the defensive linemen like Gooden, Solomon, Middleton along the defensive line. Who do you see as someone flying under the radar that could really have a big season? Is it Bumpus, Garland, Butler, Emerson, Savion Williams, Simmons, or Mincy?
I don't know that they're necessarily under the radar, but I don't know that I would say it's a big season. But I think Bumpus and Emerson are two guys that I would expect to flash and be real factors.
I'm going to be curious about Mincy. Mincy's going to be an interesting guy to watch early in the season because he was someone that Pruitt and the previous coaches seemed to like a lot when he was a freshman. And then last year he just didn't play much, So that one will be curious. I think they hope that Elijah Simmons will be a guy that kind of factors into the rotation if his conditioning's in the right spot and he can kind of be that secondary, interior D tackle, nose tackle type behind Gooden and some of the others and Emerson.
Yeah, and I maintain I'm a big proponent that you're not necessarily going to see one guy. It's going to be a committee type thing where one week it may be a Matthew Butler making a play. The following week it may be a Karat Garland making a play. Mincy's a great candidate. I just don't see Savion Williams getting on the field last year. I just not sure he's going to be able to get on the field this year with even more bodies in front of him heading into this 2020 season. Let's see here. Next on the questions, Hard Hat Ball. Will either of the tight ends signed last year, being Jackson Lowe or Sean Brown, factor into the team this year, or are they a long way from contributing?
The opportunity is there. I'm not sure.
Sean Brown to me is the most likely candidate of those two that will play.
Yeah, and again, the opportunity is there. It's one of them needs to step up. I'm in agreement with you. I think Sean Brown has the SEC body. It's just kind of how it translates. Other than Austin Pope, we don't really know what Tennessee's going to do at tight end. Is Jordan Allen going to factor in there after he switched positions, briefly during the spring? Is Princeton Fant? Has he finally found a home? Is that going to be, can he be the number 2 guy? So there's a chance somebody's going to have to step up as much 12 personnel as Jim likes to, utilize. So
GoVols 21 asks, I see Christian Charles' name mentioned more and more. Where does he project to play? What are the Vols' chances? He projects as a corner. I think Tennessee's got a pretty good shot, but he's not really been anywhere. He's not visited anywhere. This kid's never really been a part of the recruiting process up until the last couple of months during the COVID, shutdown. So, I think he's going to go take some visits this fall and schools will get out and evaluate him and we'll see from there. But corners where Tennessee likes him at. The last question, Chickamauga Ball number 2. Is there a Chickamauga Ball number 1?
Wow, I had to go with number 2.
Gibbs, all SEC ability?
I mean, who knows? I mean, the kid's never even played, hardly played.
Based on his ranking out of high school, the thinking was yes. Based on his production in his time at Georgia, I would say no. But now he's playing a different position, so who knows?
JG, Should we expect improvement in year 2 under Chaney? Would you agree, or you remain skeptical?
I'm skeptical and also think that you should expect improvement both at the same time. I mean, I really think Jared will be more efficient. I mean, maybe that's an assumption on my part, but I just think that he'll be able to make some layups. And where last year, he would make some great throws, and he would just miss what you would think would be some, in a golf analogy, a tap in. Here and there. I think Jared will be more efficient.
And it sounds like my putting. Linebacker group looks really athletic. We will all miss Taylor and Batuli, but possibly an underrated position.
I don't think it's going to be underrated. I think it's going to be a position that it has some legitimate talent, and Toa might be the best player on the team or on defense, but the pieces surrounding him have a of question marks, and that's both inside and outside. I mean, we don't know, aside from Bennett, who's going to kind of emerge as some of the other outside linebacker pass rushers, and who is going to be paired with Henry in the middle. Is it going to be Crouch? Is it going to be Banks? Can JJ make some big time year 3 leap? Is a freshman going to factor in? It's just that there's some talent there. I agree with the question, but I don't know about it's going to be underrated.
My biggest question is where's the pressure going to come from off the edge? I mean, is it?
Well, that's his next 2 questions. That's his next 2 questions.
Harrison, is that the guy?
Well, he asked. Seems like he has Twitch, future All SEC potential. I don't think you know that yet, but talk about his game, and then Kayvon Bennett. Does he have a chance at 7+ sacks? I'd say no, but if he does, then Tennessee's rolling along the defensive line and edge pass rushers.
Well, I think Bennett could get 7. I mean, if he's going to fill the role of getting to play as many snaps as DT did.
That's it. That's the equivalent of the number of sacks that DT got 2 years ago.
I'll take the under if Bennett's sack total is 7.
Well, that's a look at this week's Volquest.com podcast. Robb, Jesse, we do appreciate the time, and as always, we will miss Brent Hubbs, but he'll be back on Monday. For everybody that's missed Hubbs this week, he needed a good chance to kind of rest and relax and vacation. In East Tennessee, you need a reliable heating and air system designed for your home and our climate. You need a team that is trained and held to the highest of standards. You need solutions, not sales pitches. There are many heating and air companies in East Tennessee, but there's only one you need to remember, and that's Blue Water Climate Control, veteran-owned and family-operated. When you need a new system or major repair, Blue Water isn't going to send out a salesman. An air conditioning expert will visit your home. They'll lay out options that include repairing the system you have, replacing it with a system that's affordable, upgrading your energy efficiency, and improving your indoor air quality with options for financing that include same as cash or even rent to own. Call 299-2290 or visit bluewaterclimatecontrol.com to make an appointment. Blue Water is an authorized dealer for American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. For Robb Lewis and Jesse Simonton, I'm Austin Price for the Volquest.com Blue Water podcast.